So, hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Kris, or welcome for the first time. This is enemy number one, Admiral Kolchak and the Russian Civil War. This is part two. I went back about 5 seconds. He's just given some troops on the front line coffee and sugar and chocolate and, just the moral support that you want. Popping those peas. The moral support that you want. I can't. It sounds weird. The moral support that you want. But unfortunately, I'm wondering if this is going to work out because it doesn't seem like it's going to be a very good thing. And that's disappointing. So let's get into it.
Could not come.
Oh, sorry. Before we get started, forgot all about it. You can give me a thumbs up if you'd like. That helps tremendously. You can subscribe to the channel. That helps tremendously. Those are both free. You can donate to the channel through the thanks button. That's about 98.9999999% of all revenue that this channel makes is from supporters who donate to the channel. I don't get anything really from ads. I just don't get enough views, It is what it is. So, I do appreciate that. If you donate and you want to request a video, you can do that, and your name will be sponsoring on that video. If you request a video without the donating, I just say the video was requested. So it's just a little added perk. Now we can get into it.
Compensate for his forces' increasingly dire situation. They were desperately short of supplies, including transport, fuel, clothing, and weapons. A crisis partly caused by massive corruption and theft behind the lines. While the return of Tsarist-era discipline, which included flogging and beating soldiers, created further discontent. Desertions were rife, particularly among new conscripts from the peasantry, who had little reason to love the whites. In private, Kolchak was increasingly under strain and unable to control his temper.
I can see the people maybe not agreeing with Bolshevik, but seeing a new era. There's no more Tsar, and he's going by the old Tsar-esque way of ruling things. I'm moving my hand a lot. I apologize. He's going by the new Tsar way of approaching things, and so I'm sure there is a disconnect from that, where people just don't want to live that way anymore, especially when they're looking at the possibility of not having a czar, having different way. I mean, you could look at every government out there and think we could run just like them.
He looked visibly exhausted, and at 44, his hair had turned completely grey. The rumors of morphine addiction were probably malicious gossip, but the supreme ruler had become erratic and agitated. That August, Kolchak threw himself into planning a counter-offensive to support General Denikin's thrust on Moscow. Great hopes rested on its outcome. The attack began on the 1st of September. Initial indications were excellent. Kolchak's forces smashed through the Third Red Army, taking thousands of prisoners, advancing more than 100 miles, and driving the Reds back across the Tobol. But the great encirclements Kolchak had planned, that were to annihilate Red forces on the Eastern Front, failed to materialize due to a lack of cavalry. At the Tobol River, the Reds were able to dig in and re-establish a defensive line. Kolchak's troops, exhausted by their advance and weakened by their own losses, could go no further. October 1919. Along the Civil War's Eastern Front, the ground shook with explosions as the Red Army launched yet another major offensive. The Whites fought stubbornly, but when the Reds captured bridgeheads across the Tobol, the decision was made to begin a strategic withdrawal. General Denikin's advance on Moscow also came under fierce counterattack. Everywhere, the Reds were advancing. Omsk, Kolchak's capital, was under threat. Kolchak wanted it held to the last man. "If we lose Omsk, we lose all," he declared. But the speed of the Reds' advance left no time to organize a proper defense. The city was hurriedly evacuated on the 10th of November. Russia's gold reserves were loaded onto a Red Cross train and moved to safety, Kolchak having dismissed French General Jeannin's invitation to place them under international protection. "I do not believe you," Kolchak told him. "I would rather leave the gold with the Bolsheviks than give it to the Allies." His words revealed how far trust had broken down between himself and General Jeannin. Kolchak hoped to establish...
I don't blame him. Taking gold away from Russia and shipping it to, the protection of the Allies. Yeah. No, I wouldn't want that either. I would rather it be, given to my enemy, because it's going to stay in the country. Because whatever side the people go for, they're still Russian. Whether the white win or the red win, it's still Russia. The gold is still in Russia. It's still there. Once it's out, he may not know where it is. That guy may say, "Oh, I don't remember where it went. It went here, it went there." And then the places that take it in, whoops, we forgot all about it. We thought we got a shipment, but we don't know if we did or didn't. You know what I mean? Like, it's gone. So yeah, I side with him on that one. Keep it in the hands of the people and not another country's people.
Establish a new defensive line along the Ob River, 370 miles east of Omsk. But by December, this line too was crumbling. A breakdown in relations with the Czechoslovak Legion was the final straw. These Czech troops controlled the Trans-Siberian Railway, the vital artery for the movement of troops and supplies. The Legion's officers now decided the evacuation of their own men would take priority over the movement of Kolchak's forces and supplies. Kolchak himself was travelling east on the Supreme Ruler's train, accompanied by the gold reserves. His destination was Irkutsk, where he planned to establish his new headquarters. Around him, the country was in chaos. White forces were in full-scale retreat. The government's authority had collapsed, and a typhus epidemic was spreading fast. Large areas were controlled by Bolshevik partisans or bandits. Famine loomed. On the 25th of December, at Nizhny Udinsk, 280 miles short of Irkutsk, Kolchak's train was halted by Czech troops acting on General Jeannin's orders. He was held for 2 weeks with limited communications as chaos engulfed Siberia. While he waited, Bolsheviks and socialist revolutionaries launched a revolt in Irkutsk and took control of the city. Now, even Kolchak's escape route was closed. Kolchak was now completely isolated. Military disaster had swept away his forces. The Allies had lost patience with his failure to compromise. His authority had been destroyed. On the 4th of January 1920, at the insistence of his own Council of Ministers, Kolchak issued his last decree as supreme ruler, promising to resign in favor of General Denikin. With enemies on all sides, Kolchak planned to escape south into Mongolia, with the 60 officers and 500 men still under his command. He announced that no man would be compelled to join this enterprise. He would accept only volunteers. At dawn the next day, of his 500 soldiers, only 10 remained. Kolchak saw the game was up, and on the advice of his officers, placed himself under the protection of the Czechoslovak Legion. On the 10th of January 1920, Kolchak's train finally left for Irkutsk under Czech protection. "These allies will sell me," Kolchak predicted to one of his generals. Sure enough, on arrival in Irkutsk 5 days later, Kolchak was handed over to the city's new Socialist Revolutionary Council. The Czechs claimed they had no choice. It was the only way to ensure their own safety as they escaped the country.
Yeah, I was going to say that. There's no way that if prodded, they're going to say no. We're he's under our protection. Okay, then all of you will die together. Hold on just a second. We're going to rethink. You know what? We didn't hear you properly. So we're just going to have a little chit chat over here. And yeah, we agreed you can have him. That's about how fast it probably happened. You're all going to die with him. Oh no, he's over there. Yeah. He's the guy with the big hat. Yep, that's him. There was, and now I just see him being brutally executed. This is not going to end good. I thought he was going to turn and be terrible. He just hasn't had great luck, but I got a feeling it's really going to be brutal right now, isn't it?
But some Russian historians later claimed it was to cover up their own theft of Russia's gold reserves, which had been traveling with Kolchak. This is almost...
Wait a minute. I thought that they were... He had them. He kept them. He didn't allow that other guy to take them. I thought he did. Oh. That was a lot of gold. That's a lot of gold.
Certainly a myth, though legends about Kolchak's missing gold endure to this day.
Oh.
The interrogation of Admiral Kolchak began on the 21st of January, 1920. He answered questions willingly, avoided implicating his subordinates, and took full responsibility for the actions of his government. But the Bolsheviks had now taken control of Irkutsk, and he knew his prospects were not good. He, after all, had instructed his own officers to shoot communist prisoners. The civil war must be merciless. Either we shoot them, or they shoot us. But then, suddenly, the hope of rescue. Several thousand troops loyal to the Admiral began a desperate advance on Irkutsk, aiming to free Kolchak and other white officers held there. They battled their way to within 5 miles of the city, but they were massively outnumbered and outgunned.
Wait a minute, the Czech Legion?
It was a gallant but due.
Did the Czech Legion, did they join in the fighting with the Reds? That's what it looked like. We were so close, Allied forces. So close.
failed rescue attempt, and Kolchak's fate was now sealed. In the early hours of the 7th of February, on the orders of the Bolshevik Military Revolutionary Committee of Irkutsk, Admiral Kolchak and the last Prime Minister of his government, Viktor Pepelev, were taken from their cells and led to the bank of the Angara River. An order was given. Platoon, against the enemies of the revolution, fire! The two bodies were pushed through holes in the ice and never seen again.
Wow.
With the execution of Admiral Kolchak, the Whites' last pretense of unified national leadership was over. 1920 saw their defeat on all fronts. Western allies evacuated their few remaining troops from Russia. And though fighting continued in corners of the new Soviet Empire for 3 more years, the ultimate victory of Lenin and the Bolsheviks was no longer in doubt. It came at an appalling cost. The Russian Civil War was one of the deadliest conflicts in history, with an estimated 750,000 military deaths, 75,000 executions, 5 million civilian deaths from famine, and 3 million deaths from a typhus epidemic. The career of Admiral Kolchak, Russia's only supreme ruler, and for more than a year the world's great hope for defeating Bolshevism, had ended in total failure. He had faced extraordinary challenges and shown himself a leader committed to duty, discipline, and his own imperial vision of his Russian motherland. He was a skilled naval commander and charismatic figurehead, but was also rigid and inflexible, unable to compromise or forge the alliances he needed to succeed. Under the Soviet regime, Admiral Kolchak's name...
I was going to say definitely not being able to forge the assistance with allies hurt. You know, if he was more charismatic, more flexible, more a guy you can work with, while he seemed more like he's... What the hell? My phone just started listening to what I was saying. That's not creepy. If he had the ability to kind of work with people instead of, you know, the vision was just here. This is what we're doing. Like he was, I think he could have had a little more success. Bringing in outside help would have been necessary, though.
Was disgraced, an enemy of the people, a would-be tyrant in the mold of the Tsars, a traitor with no known grave. Today, a cross stands at the presumed site of his execution, and a memorial stands in Irkutsk. For some Russians, Kolchak remains a romantic, tragic figure who battled for an old empire and stood by his sense of duty to the bitter end. Admiral Kolchak was and remains a deeply controversial figure in Russian history. To those on the left, he was a brutal reactionary. To those on the right, a true patriot. As always, we've made great efforts to present an informed and balanced account by consulting multiple sources. The same is true for when we research current affairs. One article rarely provides sufficient historical context or range of opinion, but scout...
Okay, well, we're just going to end it here. My phone keeps listening into what I'm saying. Stop doing that. I'll turn you off. Sorry. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to end this here. What do you think of Admiral Kolchak? I'm really thinking if he was successful, it might have been the same old system of czars, kind of, I don't want to say dictators. See, I don't know how the system works over there right now, so I can't make a proper judgment and say, oh, well, they would be better off if how the hell would I know? I have no idea. Yeah. I got nothing. It's just difficult to think about it. And you're talking, he was executed 1920, so 104 years ago. What's to say that Stalin doesn't come around anyways and change him from there into, who knows anymore? I'm just guessing. And I'm not smart enough to guess on some stuff when I just don't know. But it's nice there's a memorial. But I don't know. What do you think? What kind of changes do you think he could have implemented? Would they be different today? Would Russia be different than they are? Who knows? It's an exercise in guessing. And I'm too tired right now. So I'm going to end this here. And until next time, have a good day. Have a good night.